And welcome everyone to another episode of Dice and Brushes. Today I'm going to be showing you how I paint camouflage. More specifically, kind of a multicam. Not quite, but pretty close. So before I go too in detail on the model itself, I'm actually going to do a quick breakdown of the actual camo. So this is multicam. It's got roughly 9 different browns and 7 different greens in it. And that's not even accounting for places where it's like the green is a little bit thinner, if you were to describe it in paint terms, to see the brown undertone underneath. Just easy way to describe it. And well, ladies, you tend to be a lot better at seeing different tints and shades of colors than us guys, so you might even be able to identify more. Let me adjust my camera here. Oop, there we go. Now I'll just bash my head against one of the lights. And I actually started out, I believe this is the Desert Yellow from Vallejo Paint, to prime all the models. Otherwise, if you're going for GW colors, I would go for a Xandri Dust. But you can see the difference in colors on this model a little bit. All I did was around the base is where I just did a little trim of the Xandri Dust. It's a little bit brighter than the Desert Yellow from Vallejo. And to make things quick and easy, I'm going to go into Wa Flesh, and then I'll go to Karnak Stone and Warpstone. Sorry, I was about to say yellow. Warpstone Glow, Ushanti Bone. Then I'll go. I might go into a little bit of Warboss Green, very thin layer, and then I'll pick out little tiny bits. Let's see if I can get that on camera with some Wraith Bone. Now, as you probably saw with the actual camouflage, it's not evenly distributed. It's not roughly 50% tan, roughly 50% green. It's mostly browns, and they're not evenly distributed. So when you go over the model, don't be worried about nitpicking different things. I'm just going to start, I'm going to use a crappy brush that I've damaged and destroyed over the years, and then eventually I'll go to, what is this, the Wargamer Regiment from Army Painter. Much better. But I'm just going to start with a destroyed one. So I'm going to start with this Xandri Dust. And I'll just do I'll just do the cape on camera here. But in reality, with the camo scheme I'm going, I can go with this color scheme all over the model. On the cape, the backpack, the shoulder pads, the armored legs, even the pouches themselves, I'll do in the same color scheme. The only thing that's really going to be different is I'll have the weapons be black, certain equipment like the binos here, they'll be kind of a forest green color, and it'll be flat to represent more of the military style. So I'm just going to do a small little section. I'm not even sure if you'll be able to see it, so just for camera I'll do the cape on the backpack. Don't worry about it being even or anything like that. Just going to dab it on there. And that part is already done. I can do more, but I'm just trying to show this little section for the camera. Let's see. So you might be able to see, let's see if that'll refocus. All right, against the Desert Yellow, you can see the Xandri Dust just being a little bit lighter. And when that dries, we'll be back. I'm probably do some parts of the cape off camera here. All right, and we're back. Now that I've done the Xandri Dust, just over the bits of the cape here. Let's see if that'll refocus. Not sure if you'll see it too well in the front. See just a little bit of splatterings. Probably see it more there. There we go. just a little bit there. Just those little splatterings of the lighter brown. That is the Xandri dust. And next up, we're going to go for the wall flesh. And now that the wall flesh is shaken up, again, I don't have to be precise with this. Just little tiny bits here and there. If it's a funny shape, don't worry about it. If it's not evenly distributed, perfect. If anything, I'll forcefully make sure that it is not evenly distributed. Right, and then I'll do the rest of the cloak here, and I'll be right back. Okay, and here's the wall flush. Let the camera... There we go. Let the camera focus a bit. And you can see I even applied it to the underside, or the inside of the cape. And with this kind of camo scheme, or with this camo scheme, because I'm also going onto the armor, don't worry if you reach other parts of it. It should be intentionally, oddly enough, messy. Start thinking like an orc. I'm gonna put that to the side now. Next up, I'm going to add some Karnak stone, another lighter. So in general, we're going from much darker colors to brighter. In real camouflage, it's completely random. But just for our sake of ease and sanity, that's why we're going from one to the other. And don't worry if, when you make your marks, it crosses over other sections that you've already done. It's camouflage. Don't worry about it. It's meant to be messy. It's meant to break up outlines. Especially if you put a light coating over something that was very heavy. It almost looks intentional. Which is what I'm doing right now onto the underside of the cape. I see some heavy spots which I could do to just lighten up a bit with the brown. Kind of add a few extra layers. Probably be able to see if I do a little bit there. See, very, very thin. Come on, focus. There we go. Again, I'm just going to do this all over. Just a quick, just so you can all see how quick and easy this is. Go over the brown spots as well as the green. We're trying to add some differences, some variations in the color. All right. So because I end up using less and less each time, each step feels like it gets faster and faster. So the first few steps feel like they can take ages sometimes, especially on larger models, and depending on how much distribution you want to give. But it does get faster because you don't want too much. Next up, Warp Stern Glow. And again, with this one, I still see a little, actually too much brown. So I'm actually going to focus on those brown areas now. Yes, I want more brown than green, but I don't want too much. And again, I can still have this kind of intermingle with the greens I've already done. Notice I'm not really worried about my brush angle or anything like that. I'm trying to help create some variance. And because I'm trying to create some variance, again, don't worry about being exact or anything like that. Every now and again, yes, you still want to make sure you're trying to do thin coats of everything. But with this, you can get away with a lot more. And if you can force yourself to have shaky hands, even better with this color scheme. Again, you don't want to be too, what's the word? You don't want to be too consistent with anything. So like right now, I have some of the muscles in my forearm, some of these tendons pressed up against, and that actually forces your hand to shake a little bit as you paint. So right now I'm using, there we go. I'm using this drawer to get that effect on my arm. And that looks pretty good. All right. Clean off the brush again. So now, show you what we got so far. All right. Let's actually make this a little bit, too bright. I gotta go further away. There we go. So you may notice, of course, as I keep adding colors, the more difficult it is to see between them. Even the greens and the browns seem to blend together after a while. Now that I'm at my last few here, and I'm just gonna poke out little tiny spots here and there. Normally this is not the way you want to use your brush, because I'm using a normal layer brush almost as a stipple. But with this type of color scheme, you can get away with that. Sometimes thicker and larger, sometimes very tiny little dots. Again, it's all about variance. Let yourself go with this one. Nice and simple. These aren't happy little trees, these are space marines. And again, just like before, don't worry about crossing over paint that you've already done or anything like that. It'll only add to the effect. All right. Now I'm down to my last. Now I'm down to my last two paints. If you want, you realistically could end it here. All right. Just like that. But I promised I would use another green, or boss green, and just little tiny dabs of wraithbone. But I figured while I was going through and looking at my camo, figured I'd add a little bit of Moonfang Brown just every now and again. But this one, because it's so much darker, so much stronger of a color, I'm actually going to apply this one a lot more strategically. And when I look at my old camouflage, it's almost always in a wiggly line. There's no real big blotches. I might have kind of a Z shape in there every now and again. But overall, it's a line. And so I'm kind of do that here. And just little differences here and there. I want to be there but not be overpowering. Again, this is when you have darker colors, they can do that. And with multicam, this darker brown is usually on top. I guess would be a way to describe it. So let's do squiggly lines. Go in every which direction. Especially in these little tiny areas that I did neglect. Let's not say probably, I did neglect some of these little tiny areas, these creases. But again, not too worried. We'll cover those up. There we go. That's most of that. Just get that in the crease there. Let's make sure that we also keep our, oops, let's do it this way. So also make sure that we keep this brush nice. This little tiny dab. And we don't necessarily need happy trees. A little bit of messy. It's just fine. Alright. That actually created a very nice effect. And get the brush nice. Pick out the lighter Warboss green. So this is going to be the final green, so it's just going to be applied little tiny bits here and there again. And you probably won't really notice it. It's even there by itself. You shouldn't be able to pick it out too easily, but it should still add to the effect. Especially once you intermingle it with the greens that you already had. It'll create that thinner green look, like it was kind of bleeding over. There we go. Just little tiny bits. Oh, let's get that over there. That's an angle I haven't gone to for a while. There we go. Like I said, as you keep going on this process, each color gets used less and less. And so the process gets faster. So now we'll finally go to the Wraithbone. You can use any kind of off-white here for multicam, but this is just going to be used very, very sparingly. Just little tiny, just dots here and there on the model. Look for places that you haven't really covered for a bit, or that seem overpowered by the green. Or maybe you put too much of the really heavy brown somewhere. There we go. Oops. A little too much there, but nothing that your finger can't help with. There we go. There we are, almost done here. All right. So in this case, I used four technically, and sorry about that. I had a little recording issue. So in this case, I used technically five different browns, and only three different greens. You can stand to use more greens if you want to, especially olive one, a dark olive color. Oops, there we go. But as long as there is more brown than green, you'll get the multicam effect. If you want to get a woodland camo effect, in the same very fast, easy way, you just do the reverse. You do more greens than browns, and you cover more of the model in green than brown. Very simple, very fast, very effective. Again, I'm going to repeat this process over the entire model because I want their armor to be camouflaged. I want their pouches to be camouflaged. The only things that won't be have that camo pattern will be pieces of equipment like the binos, the rifles, the equipment on his head here, on the sergeant's head. Let's see if I can get the camera. Those little goggles that he's got kind of up above his face. I'm going to imagine them as nods, night optic devices for the regular military that we use, and in which case they're all, there we go, get their camera to refocus, they're all single color as well. So, I hope you all enjoyed that, and now that you know, you can make camouflage one of your simplest color schemes yet. And remember what we keep saying at Dice and Brushes. Get your shit painted.